All right. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. Is this Monday? What is this? This is Friday. I'm so sorry. Happy Friday. I'm like totally turned around still from all the travel and everything that I have been doing. Happy Friday. I am so sorry. Happy Friday. Ready to Love went off about an hour ago. Welcome. Hey, Bettina. Hey, April. J.S. Preezy, I got your answer for you. Hey, Terry. Welcome. Oh, not from Saginaw. That's where my girl is from. Welcome. It is Friday night, and we are doing Ready to Love recap. Ready to Love recap, and I also have a very special guest that's going to be joining me here in a here in a minute. I know, Druzy, I'm just sitting here like, oh my goodness, it is my weeks and weekends all kind of run together, but trust me, I am ready to get into this Ready to Love recap. So you guys come on in and have a seat, sit down. We're going to chat for a few minutes, and then I'm going to bring my girl Kirsten in. And we're going to talk a little bit about love and relationships and this bridal giveaway that she has. Of course, we're going to ask her a few questions about life after Married at First Sight. So come on in, have a seat, sit down, make sure that you can hear. If you can hear, make sure that you put an XO in the chat. Looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about tonight's episode, which again, I feel like these episodes of Ready to Love are so jam-packed with like issues as opposed to love connections. So I think tonight there's a lot to talk about, not necessarily any love connections, but some real issues when it comes to relationships, when it comes to dating, that I really want to talk about, that were in tonight's episode. Hey, Sean, thank you guys so much for the XOs. Thank you so much, Marlo. Thank you, Miss Ioni, Tia in. And everyone, thank you guys for that. Hopefully the sound is okay. I think someone said they thought it was skipping. So let me know if your sound is okay. So, all right, let's get into tonight's episode of Ready to Love. Now, you guys know, if you've been watching this channel, you already know I am not with the introduction to the exes. I think it is the most asinine thing that they do on this show. Thank you so much, Savarius. I think like meeting someone's ex is definitely not something that you would ever do, and you would ever just sign up to do in a dating situation. Hey, Sean, thank you so much. It's great to hear where everybody is from. But you know what? Let me see this. I want to say something to you guys before I get into tonight's episode, because I want to be candid about the episode. But those of you that follow the channel know that I was in Houston last week. I got a chance to do a panel at the Women in Wine weekend. Randall from Miami was on the panel. You guys actually can see the panel. It is here on the channel. If you scroll back, it is the panel from the Women in Wine weekend. So you can go ahead and see that entire panel. I had Randall from Miami and also Simone from Houston. And I also had a chance to have dinner with Alexis and Liz. Shouts out to both those beautiful ladies and thank them so much. I thank them so much for their hospitality and connecting with me in Houston. I got them a copy of my book, Dear Alpha Female. Looking forward to hearing their feedback. But I did not run into Habibi in Houston. I did not. I did have a wonderful dinner with Liz and Alexis. And one of the things, you guys know, I have interviewed Love, Ready to Love, Put a Ring on It, Married at First Sight, different people, even some of the people from Love is Blind. And I want to just ask everyone that watches this channel for something that, as you guys are watching these series, because we watch, we sit back, we judge, we make comments, and I can tell you all that so many of the, I don't want to call them contestants, and I really don't even think that they're, I don't know, so many of the cast, right? So many of the cast members from Ready to Love, they really, really struggle. They really struggle with the idea of being a person that is going about their day and having a relatively private life, and then going on this reality show, which of course they sign up for, and then having the public, in their lives. Now, I know from working with celebrities that a lot of times you can't see yourself in everyday life as well as you can when cameras are on you. So of course, a lot of the cast, when they see themselves on television, they have, it's like it's a reality check, right? It's a reality check for them, and a lot of them, really struggle with the perception of the public and the perception of themselves, and compared to the way people see them. And so I just want to remind everybody that watches this channel to have a little grace as we are watching them, as we are commenting on them, as you are, making comments on social media. You guys got to remember that these are just, we're all people. I feel like people are people regardless of if they're on television or not. I don't think there's any difference between a celebrity and a person that's not a celebrity besides what their job is, right? So I do think that we have to remember, as we're judging, as we're commenting, that these are people, and people all make mistakes. That's pretty much the only thing that's consistent between all of us, is that we make mistakes. And I think when you go on a reality show, your mistakes are public fodder, and hopefully they're an opportunity for you to learn and for you to grow, as well as, the people that are watching you. So I just want to say that I've had this conversation with so many of the cast, from Atlanta to Dallas to Houston to, DC, Miami, and so many of them have the same story, that it's very difficult, and I can tell you guys, I would not go on a dating reality show, because I already know from working in publicity for the last 20 years how difficult it is, and how merciless people are when they are commenting. Sometimes we are so easy to throw stones at people on the television set, in our own lives are, we're struggling ourselves, but because we're not being judged on it, it's so much easier to throw those stones. So anyway, Christal's rant is over. I just want to remind us, as we do that, to just have a little grace with them, and realize that yes, some of them is very easy for us to see their mistakes because we're watching them, just like it would be very easy for someone to see your mistakes if they were watching you. Um, but it's a process. And so again, yes, they do sign up to go on television, so that comes with the territory. But I do think that we all would be a little bit better if we practiced a little grace when we're judging other people. That being said, let's get into tonight's episode of Ready to Love. I want to say, hey, Taronda, I want to say that, first of all, tonight's episode, there was a lot. I'm going to start out, obviously, with the date with Amarie, Jessica, and Janelle. It's interesting, you guys, because every season there are certain themes that come up throughout Ready to Love, the process, and one of those issues we've talked about already this season has been colorism, right? And another has been a difference in religious beliefs and expectations, and then also children. And we've seen all three of these, tropes kind of play out this season already. And so tonight we definitely saw a difference with the spirituality, in the definition of spirituality, right? So, and Toronto, we don't want to give you a spoiler. So if you have not watched the show, then you may want to mute this part. But we have Kirsten coming on from Married at First Sight, so she will be on in just a few minutes. And so don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. But let's talk about tonight's episode. First scene: Amarie, Jessica, and Janelle. And what's interesting about this scene is we've seen Amarie, he's made several references throughout the show to his beliefs. He keeps calling himself spiritual. He also said that he does a lot for the community. And then tonight we heard him say that he was into Pan-Africanism. And I think there are different definitions and different levels of all of that. But what we did see when he mentioned spirituality, it was clear when his ex came and there was a conversation between her, Jessica, and Janelle, that his spirituality and their spirituality may be different. So I want to ask a question to the chat. I need to start doing polls, but it's just me right now. And so we're not going to do a poll, but I actually want to ask you all, have you ever had a situation with someone that you were dating where spirituality and religious beliefs became an issue? I can tell you I definitely have. Hey, Arlene. Sean, I don't necessarily think that Amarie was Janelle was one of his top. I think it seems like Jessica and Janelle are very close, and I also feel like people are trying to make sure they stay on the show. So at no point have we seen Amarie even pretend that he and Janelle are, you know, compatible. So I was interested to see her. That was interesting to see her there as well. What was also interesting is that he had the date with Janelle and Jessica together, and then separately he had the date with Sierra. Same situation with Herbert, and the fact that he split up the dates with Janelle and then with Katerina and Kira. Very weird how people are doing these the dates and how they're splitting them up. But I definitely feel like having Jessica and Janelle together was probably on purpose, because they seem to be really close. They seem to have similar beliefs. So I will say this. First of all, I feel like when a person suggests that they are a spiritual person, that they have religious beliefs, what I would hope is that their behavior would reflect that, right? So you guys know on this channel, I constantly talk about the fact that I am committed to remaining positive. I am committed to remaining uplifting for other women. I am not going to have a situation where I'm dogging another woman out, or even really, I don't want to dog anyone out, whether it's men or women. But I'm definitely feel like my purpose is to uplift women. But I feel like because I say that, and I do make it very clear that I am a Christian, that that my beliefs are a part of the Christian faith, then I feel like my behavior has to reflect that, right? And so I will say that I was surprised. I was surprised to see the level of commitment that Janelle talked about, because we sometimes the behavior that we've seen thus far has not resonated with those beliefs. So if you say, as well, actually Jessica said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, which I respect. I also respect Janelle saying that she did not feel comfortable with someone doing tarot cards. I mean, that's her beliefs, and I think that I can respect anybody that sticks to what they believe in, right? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. But that also does not align with making fun of someone having a cheaper purse, right? So I guess I think that when you're on television, and when you're professing, who you are and whose you are, you have to be careful to make sure that your actions align with the beliefs that you're claiming. When it comes to Amarie, I also think that spirituality is a very tricky situation. I remember dating a guy that claimed he was very spiritual, but he had a deep hate and resentment for Christians. And obviously, after finding that out after the second date, I did not, date him anymore. And I would actually like avoid his phone calls. I had to block him eventually because he had a very negative experience. I guess he at one point in time was a Christian, and then he felt like some things happened in his life and he was very angry and bitter. And when I tell you, it was the weirdest thing. He was very angry. When I told him, like, we don't agree, so this is not a good fit, he would send me all types of text messages, basically talking negatively about my beliefs and saying, oh, you're a Jesus. Like, it was crazy. So I blocked him and I had to move on. So it was interesting to see the difference in the definition of spirituality. And I think that that's a real thing when you're dating, especially when you're dating and you know who you are. You're at a point in your life where you understand what you believe in and what is compatible, and who you would be equally yoked with. Then you have to make sure that those beliefs align. I don't know. Amarie is another person. I think, his consistent mention of, him being engrossed in his culture. I have no problem with that. But I also think that you have to be careful not to throw stones. And so I think that he really, really disliked the conversation that he had with Kira. It came up again tonight. It ultimately led to Kira being let go. And I'm going to tell you guys, when I had her on the show, when she was on the show on Monday, I had no idea that she was leaving. I reached out to her because we saw what was happening with her and people really giving her a hard time. I think that after seeing tonight's episode, I already knew that she was probably going to be the one to lead because there were just no connections with Kira in this cast. I think if there were anyone that she might have been connected with, it could have been Christian, perhaps, maybe. But yeah, there was nothing there, so it made sense for her to leave. I don't really think there are a few people I don't really see any connections with. Sierra was also on the chopping block, but she ended up beating out Kira. I don't really think that there's a connection for her either. Like this episode again, like I feel like we've gone one more week where we are talking about issues, but we're not really seeing any love connections. So like I said, I just wanted to first of all talk about that date. I think that was unfortunate. And what also was very telling was the fact that Amarie immediately said that date and that conversation caused him to lose both those connections. So I don't think that he had a real connection with Janelle. I'm not sure if he had one with Jessica either, but for him to just be so quick to say, I let those go. I don't know if he reached out to the ladies or not, but it just seemed this whole season feels very fake for him to immediately just say, okay, well, I saw that wasn't going to work. I would have loved to hear him say, well, I want to reach out and have a conversation. He did say that he should have talked to them about it before. So I'm looking forward to hearing exactly what are Amarie's beliefs, because he continues to say that he's spiritual, but we don't really know what that spirituality entails. We do know that Jessica and Janelle have been very clear about the fact that they are, Christians, and they have very strong faith. So we'll see more of that, hopefully, or at least have some understanding or explanation of that. But yeah, I wasn't surprised to see Kira go. Thank you, Darlene. Thank you, Arlene, for reminding people. You guys, please go ahead and like and share this conversation, because I think tonight's episode, there are a lot of carrots that we can kind of talk about and mull over, and people can have a great discussion about. Also, in just a few minutes, we have Kirsten from Married at First Sight, who is going to join me for a conversation about her experience on a reality dating show. Well, actually, it's not even a dating show. It's just a marriage. It's just, you are on the show, you are married at first sight. So it's very different than Ready to Love. But I want to talk to her about her experience, and also a bridal giveaway that she's doing that I'm super excited to be supporting. So stay tuned. That's coming up in just a few minutes. But moving on throughout the date. So we saw that date go from sugar to shit very quickly. And then we also saw a date, I think my favorite, I gotta say, Chris has continued to be extremely intentional in his dating. Hold on. Sean says, Marie mentioned he was into metaphysics, basically interest in ancestor worship. And that's very different. That's very different than spirit. When you say spirituality, you really have to define what that is. So I definitely, for me as a Christian, I would not be open to dating someone with that belief system. But I also think that, people need to be equally yoked. So if you are interested in that, then you have to find someone that is in the same place, or someone that religion and belief system is not, one of their priorities. For me, that's a very important thing. Also, I think that, outside of that, you need to know what you want from the other person. Do you want them to be involved with that? It seems like, I don't know. I just don't get a lot of intentionality from Amarie, because that's something that you mention all the time, but yet that's not something that you've had a conversation with Janelle or Jessica about. Jessica said that they talk all the time, and she's never heard him mention any of that. So that's very weird to me. Moving on, like I said, I'm going to the next date, which I think my favorite date is well, not necessarily date, because I didn't see any connection really with this person and their top, but I like the fact that Chris is being intentional and also being very forthcoming. I also think that he definitely is hands down still the best dressed guy on the show. I think all the ladies, dress, but I would say if I had to pick best dressed for the ladies, I would have to say Sierra, because she is fly as heck. That jean thing, the jean top. I was like, okay, I love that. But yeah, just I like to go off and talk about talk about other little things. But yes, Chris definitely in his date with um, Jessica and Aries is clear. It's interesting because I want to talk about with you guys, intentionality with women. So we hear a lot of times, I know women have an issue, which is why I have this book. Please get your copy, Dear Alpha Female. It's not him, it's you. A lot of times, women that are career driven, don't necessarily come across as also nurturing, and I don't even necessarily think it's all nurturing. I think that it's the ability to put a relationship, to make a relationship a priority, right? One of the things that Chris continues to complain about when it comes to Jessica is the fact that he doesn't feel any softness from her. You guys know that that is a huge buzzword right now. Oh, I want to live a soft life, a woman that's living a soft life. But what does that really mean? What does that really look like? I think that reference is really for a man that wants to know that a woman would be willing to make the relationship and him a priority, right? And that must not be coming across, because Chris has mentioned that several times. The young lady that his ex, which I'm not sure about these exes, y'all. I just don't even know if I really buy that these were real ex-girlfriends. I think a lot of times these probably were friends, or maybe friends with benefits. I just can't see a guy bringing a real ex that he had a serious relationship with on the show, because that could be kind of difficult. I'm not buying that. I don't know what you guys think, but I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it from Phil. I didn't buy it from Amari. I didn't buy it. Everybody had these 2-year relationships. Did you guys pick that up? All the relationships were like, the past relationships were like, oh yeah, we did it for like 2 years. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I think it could have been very casual, or a friendship as a friend that you could, have come on the show. But I feel like Sean makes a good point. His culture is very male dominant. But I also think that from what we see from Jessica, one of the things that I will say about her is she seems to know who she is and what she is willing to do. And in numerous situations, we've seen Jessica say that, you know, especially the situation with Chris, his ex said that she had to constantly be just serving him. She was constantly in servitude. And Jessica was like, I'm not going to be able to do that. You know what I mean? I like the fact that she really knows what she wants and what she's not willing to put up with. And if Chris is saying that he needs a softer energy from a woman and she's not willing to do that, well, then it seems like she's not willing to compromise, and that, that is what it is. Even when it came to Amari, Jessica was very clear on what she will not compromise with. And so I think that at the end of the day, you have to be yourself. And if a man doesn't feel like you are a great fit for him, then you can't, as opposed to trying to change and fit into a box that, is going to make you miserable. I do agree with just being who you are and saying, you know what, that's not me. Now, on the other hand, if you want to be in a relationship, if you really truly want to be in a relationship, you have to be open to criticism, and you have to be open to hearing something that you may be hearing over and over again, right? And so I think some of the other guys have mentioned the same thing when it comes to Jessica. So if she truly is ready to love and truly wants to be in a relationship, that may be something that she needs to um, you know, try to figure out where she's at. But it seems like, I don't know, my instinct with her tells me that she likes who she is. She's comfortable in her skin. And if she's not coming across as soft and open and willing to compromise, I think that we have to define, because when a woman hears that you don't come across as soft, that is extremely insulting and can, you take it defensively. It's easy to put your defenses up. We need to define, what does that mean? What does that mean? So I think that means not willing to compromise, not willing to, to make a man feel like he's a priority, not willing to be submissive in certain situations. And if that's not the case, then that's not the man for you. I think when a woman is truly in love and she's truly let down her guard and she truly is able to trust, those that energy is natural. That energy comes natural. I feel like we're seeing the result of a woman who doesn't really feel comfortable with the men that she's talking to, right? Or doesn't, maybe she's gone through something and it's not in a space where she's able to do that. But I don't think that, I agree, Miss Ani, a strong woman can be soft, but I think it takes a man that she trusts to bring that out of her, right? And often when women have been hurt, and that's what I talk about a lot on this channel, when we've been hurt, a lot of times we put that wall up, and it's very difficult for people to get through that wall. Also, if we just haven't seen, if we didn't grow up seeing what it looked like for a woman to feel taken care of and to feel safe and to feel secure. If you don't know what safety and security feels like, then you do come in with this armor up, right? I do think that could be a defense, and I think that I don't think that her guy is here. I just don't think that Jessica's guy is here. I do think that we saw her really liking Chris, but initially, because remember, she walked him around at the hoedown, making sure all the other ladies knew that was her connection. But Chris is consistently saying that he doesn't feel that from her, and he's also been very clear and very articulate in the fact that he needs that. Moving on, because we have quite a few other situations to talk about before we get into this conversation with Kirsten. So I want to say that I think I like Aries. It's like I like Aries and Chris. There's the connection because of the children, but I don't really believe that. Tonight, I really liked Aries and Phil. I feel like sign note, women take note of this. When a man is into you, you will know, right? So he will treat you differently. There was the conversation with Phil's ex where she was saying that he was not affectionate, and tonight we saw Aries was like, I don't have that issue. I think he's very attracted to her. He's into her. So you're going to get a different person depending on how he feels about that woman. A lot of times it's not that the man is not affectionate or he's not talkative or he's not open. It's just you don't bring it out of him. Just like we're talking about with Jessica, maybe the men don't make her feel safe and allow her to, to release that energy to kind of feel like she's secure and can be soft. So I think that, to me, the only couple that I saw that actually, seemed like they were really vibing was Aries and Phil. And I don't know if that's because of the attraction or there's reality there. What was interesting was Kira was very dismissive of Phil when he was mentioning that his job, because of his job, it can be seasonal, it can be up and down. I thought that was interesting. And again, when you're really ready for love, you'll know, because you will be very open to understanding other people. No one is perfect and nothing is absolute. Life comes with ups and downs. But I don't know that Phil and Aries have that. We just need to see more from them. But I definitely like their interaction. I also thought that Phil's ex, I don't believe that was a real ex. I think that was just somebody that he was dealing with. Because if you guys saw, he said that, he wasn't, at that point, he wasn't affectionate because of where he was in his life. And I was wondering, did women hear that? Because he said he was out of a job. And while he was out of a job, he wasn't able to be affectionate with women that were in his life because he wasn't happy. He wasn't where he wanted to be. And I think that's a huge point that we need to pay attention to. If a man is not in a good place, you can be the right woman. It could just be the wrong time. And in that case, you need to move along. Right? You need to move along. So, so that was interesting. His ex was very open and receptive. Herbert had his ex to meet Janelle. And actually, that was the only person that she met, which I think was interesting. I didn't realize that Herbert didn't really have any other connections, but I think that he's being intentional. So that's cool. But we did see that Janelle mentioned that she wanted to be engaged by the end of the year. I'm assuming they filmed this. From what I've heard, they filmed this earlier this year. So like, maybe January, February timeline. And that's a little aggressive. Like, well, let me not say aggressive, maybe hopeful, maybe a little hopeful. But I think that, we'll see. But let me stop right here because I want to bring Kirsten on. Let me bring her on, and we're going to talk with her really quickly, and then we'll get back to more of our recap on Ready to Love. Let me bring Kirsten on. Hey, beautiful.
Hello, how are you doing?
I am awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good, good. I know you're at dinner, so thank you so much for jumping on a Friday night.
Of course, of course.
So I want to play this video first. I have the video with your dress. There we go. That's perfect. I want to play the video for the bridal giveaway, and then I want us to talk about a little bit about your experience and how you got there. And then we have some questions for you in the comments. You guys, if you have additional questions for Kirsten, please go ahead and get those in the comments. But we're going to play this video so that people can see exactly what is going on and what she is here to talk about tonight. And then we'll come back and visit a little bit more with Kirsten.
Congratulations, bride to be, on your upcoming nuptials. It really means the world to me to launch this opportunity to gift my stunning wedding gown to someone for their special day. Even though my happily ever after wasn't achieved, my heart's desire is for another person to feel as seen and as beautiful as I did on my wedding day. In your journey to matrimony, I would like to wish you a lifetime of love, peace, and abundance. Be sure to take note of the giveaway instructions to ensure you do not miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As I close one chapter in my life and you prepare to open a new one in yours, I am reminded to always lead with love. Sincerely, with love and light, Kirsten Renee.
I love that video, Kirsten. But most importantly, my favorite part of that video is this quote: "When you open your heart to love with pure intent, there are never regrets, only lessons learned." At what point in your journey did you get to that point?
I honestly was at that point 1 second.
You guys, just give her a moment. I know she's out and about and agreed to join us. She is absolutely adorable, isn't she? DL, Sean.
Guys, I don't want it to be too loud when they're opening the door, so give me just a second and we'll talk about that quote. I don't know if you guys can hear the background music or not, but I just want to be able to make sure you guys are able to hear me, of course, and everything. But as far as that quote, more towards the end of the process, when I was able to really, digest that a man didn't want to be married to me, I was like, well, I opened my heart up. I gave it a chance. I took this leap. And I just learned lessons with no regrets. Like, you live and you learn. And sometimes it's okay to go through things and for it not to work out. Like, sometimes everything doesn't go as planned. And I knew going into this journey of my life, it was a 50% chance. Like, maybe it'll be a dream come true. Maybe it'll be lessons learned. So it was definitely more towards the end, after decision day and after everything synced in. I mean, it took me a couple of days to process everything. I was in the bed like, okay, well, I got to get back out there one of these days and try again. And that's all
Yeah.
you can do sometimes, especially like if you want to be loved and if you want to be in a committed relationship and, you know, choose each other every single day of your life, you have to put yourself out there.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, now that I'm getting through this and now that I'm healing, I can do something kind for somebody else.
Yeah.
And, you know, that takes time. You know, healing takes time. Like going through a journey of life, it just takes recovery. So
Yeah.
that's when I came to that quote.
Well, I like that. Yeah, I have a question for you. Do you think, Kirsten, do you think the process should have been longer, the married at first sight process? Do you think 6 weeks is enough time?
Honestly, I would love if it was longer because I know that it takes a long period of time to really truly get to know somebody, but also that was up to us. And that's what I tried to explain.
Oh, I just gotta look for the. Okay, I think the reception is a little bit off. Let me ask you one more question, and then I want you to talk about the contest. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I definitely think that the process should be longer than 8 weeks because you really have to get to know someone day in and day out. And that's kind of what I explained to my family and friends. And I can't remember if I had this conversation with Shaquille or not, but I'm like, I think that I did. And I think that I told the experts that too. I'm like, had he said yes on decision day, he would have had a chance to get to know me outside of, you know, filming. Like, and I was very stressed out. Like, it was a lot for me. One moment.
I mean, Kirsten is out on the town in Nashville there.
I'm out on the town, but I'm making time for you guys. But it was definitely like, I tried to explain that to him. Like, it's going to take a while to get to know me. You can't get to know somebody in such a short amount of time. So
Mhm.
I'm just like, you know, had you said yes to a commitment that you made, you would have got to know me. So I definitely feel like the process, to me, I feel like the process should be at least 6 months.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because two months, that's only what, 60 days.
Yeah.
That's not enough time. And like under that, that's an accelerator, pressure cooker type
Mhm.
of, you know, journey. And like you
Mhm.
feel pressure by so many people, so many friends, so many producers, so many things factor in to that moment to where you can hardly even breathe.
Yeah.
And you can hardly even think. And then you have your own life going on outside of that. And
Mhm.
so you're juggling multiple things. And in order to really get to know somebody, you have to just focus on that person.
That's true. That's very.
So, yeah, so I definitely think that it should be a longer process for sure.
Yeah. Let me ask you because the we're talking about tonight. We're talking about ready to love, and that process is very different because people are dating. With married at first sight, you literally are at the altar when you see them. What were your expectations? Did you think at any point that it could be someone that you weren't physically attracted to, or someone that you weren't necessarily connected to? Like, was that a possibility in your head? Because people always seem surprised if they aren't initially physically attracted, but that had to be something that you knew could happen, right?
Oh yeah, of course. That's, you know, one of the risks you take when you enter into a journey as unique as this. Like, it's almost an arranged marriage. Like, they put us together on paper, and he's an amazing guy. She goes great, and for me, I don't have a type.
Okay.
I I definitely did prefer a man with a low haircut and a low beard, and I told them I was open to dating a man with no hair that was bald.
Mhm.
But you know, you just never know what to expect because I didn't handpick this man out. He didn't come and approach me. We didn't know each other until we were standing there saying we do.
Mhm.
And so it's like for me, I appreciate how someone treats me. I'm attracted to how someone is making me feel. Like that's what I'm attracted to. Like physical attraction is great, but I know that attraction can grow, and so that grows based off of, you know, the energy and the chemistry and, you know, everything that you're pouring and putting into each other in the relationship. So
Yeah.
that's how I feel about it.
That's a very mature way of looking at it. So Kirsten, I want you to tell people about this, your idea to give the dress away, which I think is so beautiful because you are giving the dress an opportunity to be a part of another love story. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the dress. Like, how amazing was the dress? When did you know that was the dress?
The dress is beautiful. So I tried on 5 different dresses, but my particular dress that I was married in and walked down the island, that was the second dress I picked up. And the moment I picked it up, I knew it was the dress. The moment I tried it on, it made me feel beautiful. And like, although my wedding and my marriage didn't work out, I would love for someone else to have the opportunity to be gifted a free dress that's worth a lot of money, you know. And I'm like, hey, this is fulfilling to me because I'm able to return this blessing to somebody else, because I was blessed enough to not have to spend a penny on my wedding, and I know people spend thousands of dollars on weddings. So I'm like, I want someone else to, you know, feel beautiful and to feel seen and feel like they're the only woman in the world in this dress, because that's how I felt, even though I was scared out of my mind because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But somebody else's love story is different. They actually know their partner. And I'm just like, this can be one less expense they would have to even think about. Like, the dress is beautiful and they can wear it for the ceremony and wear a different dress during the reception. Like, they can, you know, be blessed with a dress. So, yeah, it was in my heart and on my mind, and to do this and give it away to someone else. So I was like, I want to do that. And I didn't want to have it sit in my closet because I can't do anything with it. And then it's going to make me think about my situation. I'm like, I don't know. Let's do something with this beautiful dress. And so instead of selling it, I'm like, let's just do a giveaway. Like, I would love to hear other people's stories. I would love to hear what this dress would mean to them if they win it. So like, I want to do that.
I love that. I love that. And I told you earlier when we talked on Instagram, I believe I started doing this channel and talking about love and I was single at the time, but I was just like, I want to promote positivity when it comes to love, and I believe that's why God honored that, and I ended up falling in love with the most amazing love of my life that still gives me butterflies. So I know that your willingness to sow into someone else's love story is going to definitely come back, to you, and you have to come and tell us about it when it happens.
So pray for me.
You got it.
It's hard out here.
You got it. Somebody was asking, some guys were on here earlier asking, were you single? And I wanted to say, I said, I'm gonna wait until Kirsten gets on. Are you open? Are you dating again? Are you back out here?
I'm not 100% back out here, but if somebody approaches me and if I feel like it's at the right timing and it's the right person, then I can possibly be open to that person. So.
Okay. I'm gonna ask one more question because I got another question from the audience. Miss Ione says, how did you feel about Shaquille after you watched the show? Did you feel like the show accurately reflected your relationship?
After first of all, that's the whole. We're gonna have to come back another time. We're gonna talk about the dress. We're gonna be positive. Let's come back next week for that question.
Okay.
Yeah, let's come back. Let's visit that next week or in a couple of weeks.
We'll do another time after we talk about.
And when I'm at home too, when I'm not out on town, we're gonna have some wine. We're gonna talk, little charcuterie board, all the things.
Okay. We can set that up another time. We'll have Kirsten back. We'll let people know the deadline is coming up this weekend for the dress, correct?
Yes, the deadline is this Sunday, August 20th. I don't know. I don't think I put a set time on it, but I would love for everybody to share to all the friends and family, sister, cousins, aunts, mothers. I mean, people are getting remarried all the time. People are getting their first marriage. I mean, whoever is getting married, it doesn't have age or a limit or anything on it. It's just as long as they're getting married next year, because or this year, so a 2023 bride or a 2024 bride,
Okay.
it's the qualification in order to be part of the giveaway.
I love it. And I told you earlier that we're going to do a story on the whole thing. Once you find the bride, we're going to highlight her, her in the dress and the whole process of it. So, Kirsten, we're going to let you get back to your dinner. I'm going to make sure that the information is here in this thread so that people can have it. You guys can share with, even if you know a groom who is a potential groom who is thinking about asking his lady, like, just share this so that someone gets that beautiful dress, and the seeds of love are sown. So make sure that you share this conversation, and I'm going to post it again on my Instagram, so with all the information that you can get in touch with Kirsten. So we'll see looking forward to seeing who wins the dress next week.
Yes, I'm excited about it, and I appreciate you so much for all of your help, and I appreciate you for sharing and spreading the word too. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, well, enjoy your night, and we will definitely have you back another time to get into the whole reality love triangle that you went through on the show. Thank you, Kirsten.
You're welcome. I'll see you next time. Have a good night.
Okay, bye-bye. All right. Yeah, I do think, that's true. It's such a beautiful way to turn lemons into lemonade. I absolutely agree. And when I told her was absolutely true, you guys, I believe that talking about love in a positive way and constantly being committed to that, I believe that's the only reason that my situation changed. And I think that everybody's situation can change, but you have to watch what comes out of your mouth. You have to watch what you speak. And because what you speak is so powerful. And for Kirsten to take that situation and to say, hey, I am going to learn, it's going to make me better. I'm going to sow into someone else's love story. We're going to watch. I promise you, if you watch and we, hopefully can stay in touch with her, you're going to see how that comes back to her, because being positive and putting out love, God will definitely turn love around for you. And I believe that for all of the ladies that are on the show, when you have a pure heart and pure intentions, I think that comes back to you. We don't know when, but we know that it always will come back. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Ready to Love episode tonight. Of course, we saw Kira go home, but I think that it didn't bother me that she went home, because it was obviously no one there that really was even expressing interest in her in that way. I don't think that they had a good match for her with this cast. We talked to her earlier this week, and I think that I think the age gap, and then just maybe a difference in personalities and attitudes definitely meant that there was not a good fit for her. So if there's not a good fit, as opposed to being ugly and going back and forth, I think it made sense for her to go home. I think a lot of people probably gonna go home. I don't know who's gonna make it to the end, but another situation that I thought was interesting is I think we saw Herbert and Janelle have a conversation, not only about, which I was talking about right before we talked to Kirsten, Janelle putting a time limit and almost like an ultimatum on when she wants to be engaged. We also saw that Herbert is very, very serious about wanting to have a biological child. That actually is one of the reasons that one of his other connections he dismissed, because she did not she was not into having a children, and so Herbert has been very clear in his process that that's something that's really important to him. Janelle mentioned that she wants to have a child, but she did not, she was kind of unclear when Herbert's ex asked her about if she wanted to birth a child, if that was something that she wanted to do. We know that she shared the fact that she was adopted and she wants to adopt, which I think is a beautiful thing. And I think there are a lot of children that need to be adopted and, are looking for parents. And it's a way to, to give back, especially since that is her story. But we'll see if Herbert sticks to his guns, because he's been very clear in the men's lounge that having a biological child is important to him, to the point where it would be a deal breaker for him if the woman was not open to that. So I'd be interested to see if he actually sticks to that, or if he's going to, say something different for the sake of making it through to the end of the show. And I guess you can't really blame people for doing that, because this is a show that they're probably on trying to stay on to the very end, but it definitely shows that it's not a commitment to really being ready for love, right? Sean says Herbert does not move at the pace with Janelle. I would not be shocked if Herbert has hooked up with Kira at the reunion. I would be shocked, because I just don't think Herbert's energy. Herbert is so laid back and seems a little bit more mature than Kira. The only thing that makes them seem like a good connection is the fact that we know that Kira wants to have children and she doesn't have children. She also wants to be with a man that doesn't have children. But I don't see them as a love connection at all. I actually was super wrong, because I thought that Herbert and Aries were a good connection, but they obviously, are not. They're not a connection at all. Another thing I want to talk about is Lee and Quentin and Janelle. That was an interesting date, because Lee, who we actually are going to have on Monday's show, so we'll be able to ask Lee all about her date with Quentin and Janelle, and the fact that when Quentin basically, mentioned that he had kind of stopped talking to her in the middle of the day, we saw Lee completely shut down. And it's interesting the way Quentin interpreted that. He saw it as, Janelle stepping up and being competitive for him. And I thought that was very strange, because first of all, for him to basically put them in competition at the table, I thought was really immature for him to do. But kudos to Lee for not taking the bait and I'm not going to sit here and compete with Janelle over you. So kudos to her for that. But I just thought that was strange. I did think initially Quentin and Lee, because they both are into fitness and health and workout, they looked cute together initially, but we haven't seen them together at all. We've only seen Quentin voice his connection with Janelle. So I'm not surprised that that's his stronger connection. I think what I was surprised about was the fact that he would, basically kind of put them in an uncomfortable position at the table. And we and I would assume that if there's any woman you don't want to be in an uncomfortable position at a table with, it could possibly be Janelle, because I'm sure she picked up on exactly what was going on. But I, like I said, I give kudos to Lee for just kind of, falling back and definitely saying that she was not going to compete. And if he, put her in that position, she was not interested. It was so interesting that we've only seen Lee, who is to me one of the most beautiful women on the season. We haven't seen her out with anybody else. We've only seen her with Marvin. That was super weird. We kept seeing her on dates with Marvin, which we knew she wasn't compatible with, because she was clear that she, his taste and his extracurricular, proclivities were not in line with her. But it's interesting that we haven't seen her with anybody else. You guys, anybody else see that as interesting? Quentin and Janelle will likely go to the end. I could see that, because Quentin actually is a lot more intentional, even I think, than Herbert. I do think the fact that Herbert only had Janelle as his as his connection with his ex was telling, but Quentin has been very vocal, about it. And even though that may not be I feel like Janelle and Herbert would be a better fit, just because they both seem a little bit more mature. Who knows? Who knows? Quentin and Janelle may go all the way to the end of to the end. That could very well happen, because he's been very clear about that. And I think, she states that she's really into both of them. But one thing about Janelle is we know she's going to be honest about how she feels. If she doesn't like something, she's going to say it. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate the fact that she's not afraid to voice if something bothers her, just for the sake of, staying on the show. So obviously she must be into Quentin. So we'll see. You're right, Brenda. There was an episode where we didn't see Lee at all, which I just think is very strange, because like I said, I think she's beautiful. She seems to have a great attitude. It's just so weird that we haven't seen more from her. Unless maybe there's no connections there for her either. We don't see a lot with Sierra either. And I definitely don't see any connections there for her. Phil was kind of missing in action until the last episode. But I see him, and like I said, out of everybody, I see him and Aries, and that's about it. Anyway, I hope you guys will stay tuned. Tune in on Monday at 8 because we're going to have Lee on, and we're going to talk to her about where she's been, where she has been, if she's had any connections that we haven't seen. I'll be interested to hear about that. I also want to know, what does she think of her consistent dates with Marvin? Did they just keep putting her on dates with Marvin trying to make something happen, or what? But I would love to see who you guys think will get to the end, on in the chat. I think after tonight, I would say Phil and Aries. I think that the viewers want to see Chris stay, but I don't know that there's a connection for him. I don't think that Aries and Chris really make a lot of sense outside of their children and that connection. And I don't see, he's been clear about the fact that he and Jessica, he kind of felt like he was falling back with Jessica. Amarie, tonight's episode makes me a little skeptical of him, so I see him going home next. If I had to forecast the man that would go next, I see that being Amarie, because I don't, he basically mentioned that Sierra, he sees her more as a friend. Obviously, his connection with Janelle and Jessica came to an end with the whole tarot cards and Pan-African spirituality. So there's really nowhere for Marie to go at this point. Like there's no women that are checking for him. He also had such a big part in sending Kira home. Usually, to me, that's how it happens on this show. When you're really involved in sending someone else home, that pendulum usually comes back around for you, and you get a chance to get a taste of your own medicine. So I would say we would see Marie going home on Friday. I would be very surprised if that does not happen. Anyway, looking forward to hearing your comments. Please make sure before you leave this chat, you like it. Make sure that you share this, specifically if you know anyone that's getting married, if you know any any new brides, if you know any bride to be, women that are preparing to get married. Please make sure that you share this, especially if they are one that are, that would be interested in having a dress. I believe the dress is a size 8. So I would assume that if the dress is a size 8, it could be taken into a smaller size, but it probably wouldn't be able to go for anyone. That it may be able to be let out a little bit, maybe a 10, but wedding dresses are usually really, really cut small. So I would say anyone that is maybe an 8, maybe a 8-10, but probably a little closer to an 8 or down. This would be a beautiful dress. I'm going to post again on my Instagram, and you guys, please make sure that you share this, because I think this would be an amazing opportunity. The dress, Kirsten revealed earlier, she was on my Instagram. The dress was $5,400. It is a $5,400 beautiful beaded wedding dress that is being gifted to someone for absolutely free. So please make sure you share this conversation so they can see that, and they can get the contest rules so they can submit. The deadline is Sunday. So if you have not submitted by Sunday, then you will miss out on the opportunity. So ladies, make sure that you tell your girlfriends and your guy friends. If you know somebody that's planning to pop the question, make sure that you get this information to him so he can potentially surprise his bride to be. Love talking love with you guys. Please enjoy your weekend. I have enjoyed hanging out as always. And before I leave, I'm going to remind you all, when you're watching these shows and when you're watching each other and talking to your friends, make sure that you speak to people with a little bit of grace, a little bit of love. Let your light be an example to not judge people so harshly, because we never like when it comes back to us. So I'm going to leave you with that. I love you guys for watching. Make sure before you leave that you like this and share it, so hopefully someone else, some beautiful woman, can be able to put on this beautiful dress and feel loved, and the dress can have an opportunity to have a beautiful love story. I love you guys for watching. I will see you Monday at 8 for my conversation with Lee. And also, Tomorrow night at 8, my conversation with the one and only Young Jeezy is going to air on this channel. So if you guys are fans of hip hop, we know this is hip hop's 50th anniversary. I had a chance to interview Jeezy, who is one of my favorite rappers, and conversation was so inspirational. Please check that out tomorrow at 8, Monday at 8, right here with Lee. You guys have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Bye, Sean.